A girl named Mutsumi is getting bullied at school and her misery attracts a phantom. She prays for someone to save her and Yato, the god of fortune, accepts Mutsumi's wish and battles the phantom. Using his regalia Tamon, who serves as his weapon, he defeats the phantom, but she complains about Yato's sweaty palms while he fights. Tamon is sick of fighting alongside such a minor and poor god like Yato, and he releases her after she quits. Since Yato is too poor for a shrine and has no followers, he takes divine odd jobs for a living. In his new job, he searches for a missing cat named Mylord. Meanwhile, a girl named Hiyori who likes watching wrestling runs into him and she saves Yato from an oncoming bus but is hit herself. Hiyori is shocked to see herself out of her body and she passes out. Later in the hospital, she is confused that her friends didn't see Yato. That night, she starts to hear lots of voices and Yato suddenly appears in the hospital. She is terrified of him, and when he explains that he is a god, she tells him that she has never heard of him. Yato proclaims in the future he will be a famous god, but for now he is a small timer. The next day, Hiyori is released from the hospital but has trouble remembering the night before. She feels sleepy throughout the day until she runs into a missing poster for Mylord and remembers the traffic accident. Yato runs into Mylord but sees the cat is chased by spirits. He also runs into Hiyori and they fight the phantom toad where Hiyori uses wrestling moves. When they retreat, they see Hiyori has separated from her body and she has a tail. After they return Mylord, Yato explains that Hiyori seems to be caught between the real world and the afterlife. He offers to help work to fix her issue for a 5 yen coin. Over the next several days, Hiyori keeps slipping out of her body, and she keeps falling asleep throughout the day and during class. She also starts to see spirits around the world. Spirits exist throughout the world but can usually only be seen by babies and animals. When bad emotions exist, a storm can happen which can cause trouble. She later meets with Yato, who tells her that her existence is dangerous and that other spirits could take advantage or hurt her. She asks Yato for his help again, but he can only dream of owning a big shrine. Yato tells her that he needs a regalia, or a spirit that can serve as his weapon to help since his last one quit, so Hiyori decides to ask other spirits if they could be Yato's regalia. After Yato is done with an odd job, Hiyori calls him saying that she found a regalia for him, but it was actually just a phantom who wants to eat them. Yato and Hiyori fight the phantom, and Hiyori's wrestling skills are stronger in her spirit form. Yato also reveals that Hiyori's tail is her lifeline to the living world. If it gets cut by a spirit, she will die permanently. Yato suddenly sees an uncorrupted spirit of a small boy and he claims it as his regalia. The spirit turns into a katana, but the memories of the boy overwhelm Yato and he is swallowed by the phantom. Hiyori is shocked, but Yato emerges from the phantom and defeats it. The spirit, named Yukine, turns into human form but he ignores Yato. Yato tries to get food and clothes from Yukine from the dumpster, and Yukine is disappointed to see how poor the god Yato is. They meet Hiyori at a cafe since she will buy food for them, and Yato explains that they can temporarily be seen by humans but will be forgotten instantly. Yukine doesn't remember his life before he became Yato's weapon, and Yato teases him because the sword seems attracted to Hiyori, and as his master Yato can feel Yukine's thoughts. They get teleported to a job and arrive at the shrine of Tenjin, the god of knowledge. Yukine and Hiyori are super impressed with the elder god. Tenjin has lots of followers and weapons, and since it's exam season has lots of wishes from students. He teases Yato about how poor the god is, and Yato realizes that Tamon has switched to becoming a regalia for Tenjin. Tenjin is too busy with requests, so he asks Yato to help kill a storm of phantoms near the train tracks, who are preying on students and causing them to run into the train. Hiyori tries to fight, but she is overwhelmed by spirits and is saved by Yato. They complete the job, but Yato is disappointed to take the job, because he doesn't think it's fair to help people who want to die using the spirits of people that originally wanted to live but died unwillingly in accidents. Yato dreams of being a rich and famous god, but he is reminded by Yukine that he is poor and homeless. They meet with Hiyori, and she sees that Yato has wasted a bunch of money on useless items meant to bring good luck. Yato then brings them to meet his girlfriend Kafuku, the goddess of poverty, where they watch as Yato scams some money out of her. Yato then gets punted by Daikoku, Kafuku's regalia. Kafuku invites them to tea and is happy to meet them, although they warn Yukine and Hiyori that Yato has a scary reputation. Yato gets a job which was actually an accidental wrong number. The salaryman reveals he met a girl who was a runaway and took her on dates and gave her presents. He also took her to an amusement park. But as time passed, he started experiencing bad luck, such as losing his job and reputation. They realized that the girl was actually Kafuku, and since she is the goddess of poverty, the salaryman has become broke. Yato has the man renounce his relationship with Kafuku, which makes him forget everything that has happened with her and saves his life. They later explain the situation to Kafuku, who said she was just playing with the salaryman, but she will try not to do it again. Finally, when they leave, Kafuku tells Hiyori that Yato used to not be a god of fortune, but he was long ago a brutal god of war. That night they meet Nora the Stray, a dangerous former weapon of Yato. The next day Yato teaches Yukine how to create a borderline, a barrier that phantoms cannot cross, and he finds that Yukine seems particularly powerful at creating barriers. After they train, Hiyori insists that she take care of Yukine because Yato has weird relationships with too many girls. They fight over Yukine, but he ends up going with Hiyori. Yukine is impressed with how large Hiyori's house is, but she sees Yato sneak into the house to take advantage of all the food. Yato explains that he stays in old shrines because it keeps them safe from potential phantoms. At night, since Yukine is afraid of the dark, he takes refuge in Hiyori's room but is stopped by Yato before he gets too comfortable. Meanwhile, Bishamon, the goddess of war, is fighting several phantoms in the city. The next day, Hiyori takes Yukine to go shopping, but when Yukine starts to steal, she scolds him and he angrily runs off. She later tells Yato, but the god tells her since Yukine shares a mind with him, it will be difficult for him to stop misbehaving. He tells her that gods don't have the same ethics as humans, and she is reminded that he has killed before. Meanwhile, Yukine runs into the spirit of a girl that died in a hit-and-run accident. He stays with the girl, but she becomes infected by phantoms. Yukine cries as he fights with Yato against the phantom, as the girl has been consumed and killing it will be the only way to free her. Yukine is traumatized from the day before. Since he is missing, Hiyori goes to look for him, and she finds Yato and Yukine after Yukine had been stealing from others. They are attacked by Bishamon, who uses her many spirits to track down Yato. Yukine wants to fight her, but Yato tells him that Bishamon is way too strong. They fight and she wants revenge for his killing of a spirit weapon years ago. Hiyori runs to Kafuku, who explains that Yato used to be a war god and struggled against Bishamon in the past. With the help of the goddess, she uses her powers to try to track down the fighting gods. Meanwhile, Bishamon has found Yato and Yukine in the forest, but before Yato is defeated, Kafuku intervenes and Bishamon has to retreat. However, Yato is injured in the aftermath. The next day, Bishamon has to deal with phantoms pouring out of the vent created in the aftermath of the battle. Yato is also lounging around at Hiyori's house when Yukine goes to Tenjin to see if he can change his master. Tenjin warns him that he risks being a Nora, or a stray spirit that is hated by gods because they are often disloyal. Hiyori is tracked down by Bishamon and Kazuma, but Kazuma keeps her identity a secret from Bishamon. When Bishamon leaves, her weapon Kazuma tells Hiyori to avoid Bishamon and that she has to help Yukine, as a disobedient spirit is harmful to a god. Later, Yato reveals to Yukine they have a new job at a convenience store. But when Kafuku and Daikoku arrive, Yukine steals some money and runs off. Yato tries to look for him, and Hiyori tells the god that he needs to treat Yukine like an actual person and not a weapon. They find Yukine with Nora, who taunts them, and when they fight phantoms, Yukine is less effective due to his doubt. Hiyori is at school when Yato and Yukine arrive for another job. They are at the school to help Manabu, a student who is being bullied. Yato gives him an item to help him, and Yukine explores the school and remembers some of his past when seeing students in their classrooms. Meanwhile, Bishamon visits Kafuku to ask for information on the increase of phantom activity. They confront Bishamon hunting Yato, and Kafuku tells Bishamon she better not hurt Yato. At the school, Manabu is confronted by one of his bullies, and phantoms arrive to tell Manabu to murder his bully. But Manabu stops himself and runs away, and he later meets Hiyori and Yato, who encourage him. Meanwhile, Yukine is sad about his situation, that he is dead and can't join the other kids. So he starts smashing the windows in the school. This causes Yato to suffer terribly. Yato collapses, and Hiyori takes them to Kafuku to help, but Daikoku prevents them from entering. Daikoku eventually lets Yukine in and they cleanse her. They explain that Yukine needs to be punished for Yato to get better, and they will need help from the other gods. The ritual of ablution needs to be performed, but it is risky. Only Mayu, the former Tamon at Tenjin's shrine, is willing to help, and Daikoku has trouble getting help from other gods for Yato. Hiyori goes to Bishamon's shrine and is able to get Kazuma to come. They perform the ablution, which is painful for Yukine, and Yukine starts to turn into a phantom as he is jealous that the other humans get to live normal lives. Hiyori and Yato are able to reach out to Yukine, who confesses his bad actions and cries. Yukine returns to normal, and everyone is happy to see them all recovered. Since Kafuku and Daikoku helped them, Yato now has a large debt to her, so Yukine works a part-time job to help pay off the debt. Yato also visits Tenjin to thank him for helping, but they get into an argument. Yato also asks Tenjin for help in fixing Hiyori's condition, but Tenjin states that it's likely her connection with him is keeping her from passing peacefully into the afterlife, and that for her to move on they would need to cut ties. Later, Hiyori goes to a festival on New Year's with her friends, but doesn't notice the god Rabo and Nora stalking her. She spots Yato in the festival and runs off, but Yato and Yukine are fighting several phantoms and are surprised to see them in such great numbers. Meanwhile, Nora has Hiyori trapped and uses several wolves to attack her. Nora warns her that a brutal god named Rabo has arrived, And after Yato defeats the phantoms, the god Rabo watches from afar. Yukine and Yato later meet Hiyori, who seems to have forgotten Yato. They try to revive her memories by showing her familiar places, but she can't seem to remember Yato at all. After all their attempts fail, they are met by Nora, who reveals she has taken Hiyori's memories of Yato. Rabo arrives to fight Yato, using Nora, and they demand Yato remember his true self. The sky darkens as many phantoms appear around the city, and before they leave, Nora tells Yato she will give back the memories if he beats Rabo. Later, Kazuma and Teijin reveal that Rabo is a god of calamity, who used to fight alongside Yato to kill people, as Yato also used to be a god of calamity. To protect Hiyori, Yato decides he must cut ties with her, but Yukine refuses to give up and gives Hiyori a comic of their story together. But as time passes, Hiyori starts to lose all her memories. Hiyori awakens to see Yato and Rabo confronting each other, and she has no idea what is going on. Yato fights Rabo, but during the fight, Yato is trapped and saved by Hiyori. Rabo is disappointed to see how weak Yato has gotten, and he feels that Hiyori is a part of that weakness. He tries to kill Hiyori, but Yato is able to save her and flee. Meanwhile, the city starts to be engulfed by phantoms, as the other gods fight to protect the humans. At the shrines, Rabo destroys the last of Hiyori's memories and she passes out. An angered Yato taps into his past as a god of calamity and duels Rabo with greater power. Rabo decide to merge with phantoms to get stronger, and in the resulting battle they cause a landslide that threatens to kill Hiyori. However, Yato is able to save Hiyori just in time, and she is able to break the spell and regain her memories. Rabo captures and threatens to kill Hiyori, but Yato and Yukine channel their power to free her and kill Rabo. As Rabo fades, Yato tells him he no longer is a god of calamity. After the battle, Yato tells Hiyori to fix her condition. She needs to cut ties with them, but she refuses and wishes she could be with Yato and Yukine forever. And as the god of fortune, Yato accepts her wish. And this is all for this video. Make sure to subscribe if you enjoyed it, and I will see you in the next one.